Mike, JB, what's happening, boys? What a
What's up,
great,
man?
what a great Sunday. I mean,
Great.
I woke up, had coffee, breakfast, went to church, listened to a great message, got ready for the game, watched the Gamecocks pull a nice W, had a lot of high notes of the game, and then was able to watch Notre Dame lose. So good good day in college football.
What do you have against the Irish?
No, nothing, man. I'm being facetious. I grew up in Florida, and yeah, I was a Florida State fan, but I didn't hate Miami. I always thought they were really cool. They were the U, man. I mean, they were back in the early 2000s. I mean, that was when they were still the U, and then they've been searching for the last 20 years on how to get back to those days. But I do know that was a rivalry, and it was fun telling my wife about when the game started. I said, I don't know if you knew this or not, but at one time this game was literally labeled as the Catholics versus convicts, and could be interpreted pretty brutally, especially in today's political climate. But it always made for great football games, and yeah, I think it was just another fitting game, last night or Sunday night, I should say. So
Yeah.
Anyway, but the Gamecocks, man, 1-0. Feeling good. I tell you, that first drive was straight out of a textbook. We cooled off a bit since then. I may need to shut down all my links here.
Yeah, close them down so we can, because last week I think we had a couple of buffering. Yeah, you're good. You're good now. You good now?
Uh-oh.
He's there. Perry, if you can hear us, just nod and wink at the same time. Rub your head, rub your belly.
Hello.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You good? Okay. One of the things that happened in that game, you mentioned the start. The start was obviously elite for Carolina. It was scripted. It was elite. They scored. You mentioned that they kind of bogged down. We're going to come back to all those type things. But they did produce big plays and played complementary football late to win the game. And it's game one. And I felt like while there were some issues in the ball game overall, this was the best game one of the Shane Beamer era. So speak on the big play capability of this team when you have good players being able to kind of pull some of that out of thin air and do what good teams do, separate themselves and win the ball game.
Yeah, man. No, that's a great point. But I think good teams, good teams complement one another. So I think you said it perfectly. And we have seen that the last 17 games dating back to late 2023, this team has really helped pick themselves up if they're a little slow defensively. Offense plays well. Same thing, defense. We had special teams played a huge part in it as well. But it was great. But then when you talk about how important explosive plays are, and explosive plays, some people have different definitions. In our world, when I was coaching and playing, it was always 20 plus yards, right? Any gain that was a 20-yard play or more would be considered an explosive play. And you look at the punt return, you look at a couple of the deeper passes, you look at the post route to Nick Harbor, 22.5 miles an hour that he was clocked at running, which is like the third fastest clocked time in all of football the last 3 years or something ridiculous like that. And I know there have been a lot of Gamecock fans that have been waiting. They're just like, just let them run fast and then launch it down the field. And, we finally got that. But the things that I saw offensively from my untrained eye is I think the offensive line struggled. I really like the complementary of Attaway and Faison. I think that they are similar, but at the same time, Faison's got a burst where Attaway is a guy that can just plug away. Lenoris he just doesn't get tackled. People just cannot get the dude to the ground. I saw a clip of one of the Virginia Tech players talking about his one of his attempts at trying to sack Lenoris. And he was like, I promise you, like this was not a normal dude I was trying to tackle. And then just seeing Lenoris' composure, even high through the first drive, and then as things kind of leveled off, and then high again back in the fourth quarter to end the game. Very efficient performance. Kind of the key going into the game that we talked about last week and the week before was take care of the football. Control what you can control, right? You can't necessarily control interceptions all the time, but you can control two hands on the football. I thought he had great ball security. You look what happens when you don't turn the football over in a game, have a non-offensive touchdown, and you got a really good shot to win a lot of the games that you play in. And then you start looking at the schedule throughout the remainder of the year. I mean, golly, I hate to get ahead of myself, but, as a fan, I'm allowed to do that. Player and coach, I get it. But you look at our schedule going into Game 5 at LSU could easily be a top 5 matchup, which would be electric. It'd be 2012 all over again, and hopefully we'll have enough juice to pull that one out. And I know we got a handful of tough games in between then, but I do think that that's where we are trending. So yeah, great performance. Very excited for where this team looks to be heading.
Perry, I wanted to ask you about the play that you mentioned, which was in addition, obviously, to the punt return for a touchdown, the play of the game, and that's the deep post for a score to Nick Harbor, which, I mean, this is the kind of play you've been waiting on and you hope you see so much more of this year. I didn't get an all 22 look, but just watching it live, it seemed like they were in cover 0, right? There was no safety help. Is that right?
Quarters, cover 4.
Okay.
Yep.
But basically, the way that is defended, you're feeling pretty good about your
Yes,
that's part of my question. You are the quarterback, and it seemed like they were kind of setting up that play, right? It was, for lack of a better word, kind of conservative for most of the game, and then it's like, okay, we're going to hit them over the head with this. So as a quarterback, you've got the right play called. You know that is going to be an absolute mismatch. The question I've always wanted to ask someone like you who's played the position at a high level, how do you stop yourself from getting too excited? How do you like don't even stare at Nick Harbor, don't crack a smile, because that play, when you look at the defense and you survey, it's going to be 6, right?
Yep.
So how do you it's like a poker player. If you got a full house, you don't want to get all giddy at the table because everybody's reading your eyes. How do you do that? How do you downplay it?
Well, I think I'm laughing because you're exactly right. And those are the emotions that I can't speak for all quarterbacks that I would get. You get up there and you're like, wait a second, this is going to be a touchdown, right? Yeah. All I've got to do is put the ball in the middle of the field or on the hash or wherever the spot is, depending upon the play. And we got a shot to score here. I've been on the throwing end where it was a touchdown. I've been on the throwing end where I've overthrown. I've been on the throwing end where it was a perfect throw and your future NFL star receiver happened to pull his hamstring halfway through his route. But no, the feelings you get, you're right. You have to be composed. You saw it, but it comes down to practice and repetition. You take your steps. You have your eyes on where you've been coached to keep your eyes, which is that play side safety, making sure he drives down to give you that throw over the top. And I do expect that we have seen that teams are not going to want to play cover 4 against us. Right. Let's go back in time. Let's do a little Gamecock football history here for a second. When I got to South Carolina, teams very rarely played cover 4. Well, why is that? Because Coach Spurrier was infamous, the Mills concept. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard that before. The post over dig, right? The dig drives 12. That strong side or play side safety drives down and cover 4. He's responsible for number 2. Post route's going over top of his head. Quarterback, you take your 3-step drop, you hitch and throw as far as you can down the middle of the field. Receiver should be right there, and he runs underneath it for a touchdown. That made Coach Spurrier more wins and touchdowns than maybe any other play in his playbook. Well, so teams stopped playing quarters. They went closed middle, cover 3. One high, deep safety to make sure that he was your post player to take it away. And, Virginia Tech left us vulnerable. And actually, it's kind of funny. I don't recall many teams doing that against us. I love the way that Clayton White, and I'm sure we'll come to Clayton here in a second, but I love the way that Clayton White teaches his quarters. It was phenomenal. When I went to the South Carolina Coaches Conference a couple of years ago, they do play that quarters, right, where those both safeties are keying number 2. Well, if that safety on the backside has no threat, Like number two runs a flat route, or he runs a 5-yard slant or an out or whatever. That backside safety is sprinting to cover that post to take plays like that away, which is why you don't see that versus, which is why you don't see too many teams. I say that in South Carolina State will probably hit a post for a touchdown this weekend and completely jinx us. But that's why you don't see it a lot against the South Carolina defense. But to your point, there was no safety deep. We were underneath all day. The passing game was a little disrupted. I'm not sure from an offensive line standpoint. I know, JB, you mentioned that one of the starters was out, and the guy that replaced him really did get exposed during the game. And, I'm expecting that to get resolved. But, from an offensive line standpoint, that performance was eerily similar to Old Dominion, which I know that Coach Teasley is going to get it corrected. We've got the players to do it. So I'm not ready to hit the panic button. I think with all of the portal stuff that happens and the new faces and the new coordinators that comes in, not only at South Carolina, but across college football as a landscape, there were no offenses that impressed me. Florida State did some good things. I think they've got the right juju with Gus Malzahn and Calistano, or however you say his name, running that Auburn-esque power read offense where the QB's running. Other than that, I didn't see any offense perform at a high level. And I think that's just a first game thing.
I don't even know if I responded to him. John, if you're watching and I forgot to respond to you, I apologize. Strick will be on tomorrow, and he sent me and JC a text yesterday about the offensive line, and I'll leave it to him to kind of be a little bit more elaborate in what he's talking about. But he did mention, it looked like a lot of the issues up there from his standpoint, and just kind of checking with some people were communication type things. Perry, obviously you were a quarterback at the collegiate level for 5 years. Wait a second. 4 years, 5 years, 5 years. That's pretty normal, isn't it? I'm not trying to dismiss the issues. I thought they'd be further along than they were. And I know Surratt being out and starting Newsome, moving Marquis from right guard to left guard. Like I got it. But they also have a bunch of guys who played a bunch of football, including a quarterback who's played a bunch of football. So I don't want to dismiss their issues and try to minimize it. I don't think that's fair to the fans who watch this program. Like, we all saw it with our own eyes. They had a bunch of issues last Sunday that they need to get resolved. But when it comes to communication stuff, those are if you're not worried about talent necessarily, and you're more worried about getting it corrected from a communication standpoint up front, those are the things, Perry, right, that you can, from week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3, you can make much larger steps in correcting those issues than some others.
Yeah, Coach Saban said it best. Nick Saban said it best on the broadcast Monday night. Teams see the most growth between game 1 and game 2 because you don't know what you don't know. Even with guys that have played, they haven't all collectively, 11 guys have played together in a full game yet until game 1. Then you're able to kind of work out some of those kinks, right? That I think that was a profound statement and also very true. But yeah, you look at the communicate. There were a couple times where guys weren't missing blocks. Offensive linemen on run plays were just going to the next level.
Yeah.
And letting the guys that they were blocked up just run free. So there was something didn't appear from me not being in the huddle and knowing the play. Something appeared to be off. It was not a talent issue and really wasn't a coaching issue. I guess you could blame coaching or communication on coaching, but it's a first game thing. Like I'm not ready to say like this offensive line's terrible and Sellers is going to have to run for his life and blah, blah. Like that would be so incredibly premature to say. And the other thing we don't know is Virginia Tech's got some dogs on the defensive line. I'm very intrigued to see how this defense performs throughout the rest of the year because they got some talented guys. That looked like an SEC defensive line. They were limited on the perimeter. I don't think they had guys that could match up with some of our receivers. But defensive line-wise, I was very impressed with how they controlled the run game, how they attacked the passer. But it'll get corrected, just like it did last year. I have full faith. This is a hell of a coaching staff. We've got a hell of a football team, guys. This is the best team we've had in the last decade. I believe that as long as we stay healthy. But, I think offensive line will get better. The run game struggles would get better. Faison, he's got a little burst to him, which I really liked. He's got a little wiggle. He's got a chance to really be a home run threat. much like how Rocket was last year. But the combo of Faison and Attaway, I think that it's going to be a really good combo. And I liked going on to the game plan. I like Shula's approach to the game. I love the misdirection with the split zone, getting an easy completion to start the game. Great run after catch. Is it Brady Cook? Is that right? That's his name?
Brady Hunt.
Brady Hunt, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Brady Hunt.
Cook played at Missouri, quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback. Yeah, Brady Hunt. Brady Hunt had a phenomenal game. Lots of good runs after catch. I thought he blocked well too. Overall, it was a pretty solid performance. Overall, I know we hit a couple quarters of some slow things, but tough to get going when you're getting beat up front.
Yeah, I think, and I definitely want to get your thoughts on the defense here in just a second. You and I talked. That's what we talked about on Sunday night, more so than the offense. But I think one of the questions, if you could maybe, to the best of your ability, without obviously being in the locker room and being in the huddle, understanding game plans and this, that, and the other, what they're doing. I think we always need to preface what we're going to say or comment on with the understanding that we don't know what's going on in the building, right? We don't really know what we're watching. Most people will tell you that they do, and they don't. They couldn't tell you what the play was. But I think you just mentioned, like early on in that opening script, or the first 10 plays of the game, or whatever, they did use the tight ends a lot, and it worked. And then I think the general feel is they went away from that, and then kind of came back to it later on. Could you speak on that? Like, what were you seeing from Virginia Tech? Did something force them away from that? Did they just want to try to do something different to kind of bring it back into the game plan? Like, what's your view of it?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that they tried to get away. I think the psychology as a play caller, at least for me, and mine was at the high school level, not even in the same atmosphere of what Coach Shula is having to do. But when you've worn out a play, or you've done a certain type of play a couple times on the first drive, you kind of want to put that to bed and then come back to it at a later time. You don't want to necessarily rush right back onto the field, because that's what the defense is coaching them up, getting coached up on. Hey, when that tight end splits across the field, that other safety or that outside contained player's got to take him. They can't just let him run free to the flat. But there was one of the drives, I think it was maybe the third drive. It was after we had an incomplete pass. I think Lenoris got pushed out of the pocket, had to throw it away, or either had an incomplete pass. But then we went 2nd and 10, which is an interesting down, because you don't want to necessarily just throw the ball and then end up being 3rd and 10. But you could turn around, give the ball, get a 4-yard gain, and now you've got 3rd and manageable. Well, you turn around and you're running a little inside zone, you're an outside zone or whatever, and we're getting blown up for a 2-yard loss. Now you go back to 3rd and 12, they're dropping 8 into coverage and still getting pressure with 3 down. As a play caller, that's a really tough spot to be in, which is why it's so important to button up that communication issue on the run game and on the offensive line. Like, if you look at Faison's long run was 2nd and 33, and I know a penalty pushed us back, but it was a penalty, then a sack, I believe, that pushed us back to get to that long yardage distance. So because of that, it puts you behind the 8 ball. And then as a play caller, it takes you out of your game plan, because now all you're trying to do is salvage getting a manageable down and distance to at least attempt a conversion, right? So all in all, again, I'm liking what I'm seeing with Coach Shula. I think he is taking more of a pro-style approach with Lenoris and not using him as much in the run game, and more letting him scramble, which he's obviously great at. And I don't think there's there's pros and cons, right? You don't want to limit Lenoris to what he can do, but at the same time, the last thing you want to do is get arguably one of the best players in the country hurt just because you want an added dimension to the run game.
The best player in the country. You misspoke there.
Yeah, he's making a case for it. I can assure you that. He is damn good.
You guy's a freak. I saw the same interview you did. And I agree with you about Virginia Tech, by the way. I felt like the best part of their team going into the game and then after the game was their front 7. The linebackers are really good too. All right, defensively, they didn't give up a touchdown. They just continue to do what they do. Perry, Fred Johnson is wow.
Wow.
We talk about the freaks list. He might be a guy to get his name on it here quickly, but losing all the guys they lost last year, now you've seen them for 4 quarters. Your takeaway on the strength, as athleticism, speed, youth, getting eyes in the right places and things like that, what'd you see?
I just saw a defense of guys running to the football. I just saw people that looked hungry. I think the secondary played well. There were a couple plays where Virginia Tech, the QB and the receivers, I mean, they were making NFL-type throws and catches, contested. Yeah. If it wasn't a shallow cross, every throw was contested. Every single one. He had pressure literally almost every single time he dropped back to throw, unless he did throw one of those shallow crossing routes, which we got exposed on a couple of those. We were in man coverage, and it appeared that the corner was almost expecting a linebacker to cut, which means typically in cover one defense, man-to-man, you have your robber, which is your safety that comes down to play the middle of the field, or you have one of the off backers, which is called the cutter. He plays the middle, so you either have the guy that robs the middle, which is deeper routes by the safety, or the cutter, which is the opposite backer, opposite of the one covering the running back in man-to-man coverage. And the way that they were trailing some of those shallow crosses, almost was looking like they were expecting someone to cut that, but didn't happen. But overall, I still got to get the non-highlighted players' names down. Defensive line, stout. The linebackers, the ability to run sideline to sideline. For the life of me, I do not know why Virginia Tech didn't just try to attack downhill, because they kept trying to go to the sideline. And as a fan, I love it. I love when our team plays well. But as a guy that loves offensive football, I'm sitting here like, why are they continuing to try to outrun this defense? Because it's not going to happen. And it didn't. That's why, you give up, they give up 9 points. And, overall, bend, don't break mentality anytime that, if a team's going to have a big drive, which teams will have, and you can limit them to 3 points, you got a chance to have a good day, man. And like we talked about, JB, on Sunday, go back to early November 2023. Name a better defensive coordinator than Clayton White in college football. The numbers don't lie, man. From Vandy to Clemson to Kentucky Clemson in 2023 to last year to the performance we had on Sunday. I mean, name a better defense, from takeaways to bend, don't break to limiting people's pass game. I mean, other than Garrett Nussmeier, what quarterback has dropped back and thrown the ball halfway decent for an entire length of a game against us? And Garrett Nussmeier could easily be the number 1 overall pick. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't seen it.
I don't think there is.
He's got a really good mix of coaches. I think that they believe in the way that they play defense. I think that he has an interesting blend where it's complex to an offense, but understandable to the guys that actually have to execute what's being called. I think Coach White is an excellent communicator. Obviously, he's a personal friend of mine, so I know it might sound like I'm brown-nosing the guy, but I'm giving him his credit, because the credit's there. The proof's in the pudding. The way that he has communicated his message to this group of coaches and then players the last 13, 14, 17, 18 games. I hope Coach Beamer can hang on to him, because if this continues, he's going to have some pretty sizable job offers come this offseason.
He's received some calls in the past. No doubt he'll probably receive more in the future. Somebody mentioned me the other day, I'm concerned about this secondary because of the plays you mentioned that some of the Hokie receivers made. And there was some face guarding going on. They got to fix that. But my response was, well, Torian Gray still coaches the secondary, right? Okay. They're going to be fine.
Dude, those cats are long too. You look at Bakari Swain and you look at Kilgore and Judge Collier. I know he got hurt, but those dudes are long. They're long corners. They're all over 6 feet, or at least they appear to be. And if you have the ability to guard receivers tightly with that length, and then of course I'm missing the kid from Sumter that went to NC State,
Brandon Cisse.
Yeah, he played phenomenal. I mean, he made himself known early, and he had one pass caught on him, but other than that, I mean, they got a really good mixed bag of talent that Tell you, man, they're going to cause some issues. You tie that ability to cover with the way that we rush the passer. I think the only chance that you have to expose our defense is try to get downhill as quickly as possible and try to take advantage of our aggressiveness wanting to come up the field with counters or any type of misdirection plays. But if you think that you're going to just drop back and pass, or you're going to run jet sweep or outside zone or anything outside the tackle and just outrun us, it's going to be long day offensively.
Mike, that reminds me a lot of Georgia and Alabama defenses we've seen over the last 10, 15 years.
Very much so.
You're not going to get past those guys.
No, and you mentioned the height. I always sometimes look at it the same way they evaluate basketball players in the draft, wingspan. Because at the end of the day, like, your head is not making a play on the ball. It's your arms, your hands, right? And so those guys, even the ones that are listed at like 6 feet, 6'1", it look like their knuckles are scraping the ground, and that's what made like Richard Sherman so good during his peak, is he was so long. He's built like a basketball player.
Yep. Yeah, it's impressive, man. They've got a good mix, and I just pray we stay healthy. And did we ever find out the update on Judge Collier? What his time span is?
He'll be back. I'm not so sure that he would have been back this weekend. They, maybe could have figured it out, but I think it's a small sprain. I saw the play. I mean, he got his foot stuck in the turf. And he did play one more play. You know the reason he played one more play, by the way? Because they ran up and spotted the ball, and they didn't know what to do because of the new rule. Like, well, if I go down now, does that cost my team a timeout? Like, what happens here? And so they ran one more play, and then DQ Smith walked over and said, "Get on the ground." And so they went out and got him out of there. I would suspect you see him back by Vanderbilt. If not Vandy, Missouri, but he'll be back.
Good. Yeah, he's a baller. Yeah, I'm excited, man. We got a good team. My aspiration for this week's game: focus on yourself, play clean, tackle well, take care of the football, come out injury free, I should say. And then we'll win big. South Carolina State's got some good players though, but this game is all about the Gamecocks and getting ready for conference play.
Get it right. Can't wait to see Diego Pavia against this defense, by the way, too. Not to look ahead past the Bulldogs, but you know what I'm saying.
No, in the stadium, I believe 7:00 kick, right? First Vanderbilt. Oh, buddy, that place is good.
Well,
what did he say? He said that he's got this one circled. I would, if I was giving advice to Diego, from one former quarterback to the next, I might circle another game, brother.
Might use one of those magic erasers for this one. Yeah.
Go ahead and control Alt Delete that circled button there, buddy. But hey, more power to him. I like his confidence, and that's why you have under the radar guys like him perform at a high level. But
no question,
would not poke that bear that is Dylan's.